Love ain't selfish, it's essential. You can't pour from an empty cup. How you gon' give joy if you ain't got no joy in you? How you gon' love them babies, that partner, your friends, if you running on empty? You can't pour from an empty cup self. Love is not selfish, it's necessary. You've got to be full to give your best to the world. You know, I need y'all to really hear me on this, because it's the foundation of everything else I'm gonna say. You can't pour from an empty cup. Now that might sound simple, like a nice little quote you'd find on Instagram, but it's one of the deepest truths you'll ever learn in this life. It's psychological, it's spiritual, it's real. You see, people get so used to giving time, giving energy, giving love, that they start to believe they have to give, even when they ain't got nothing left. That's where burnout, bitterness, and breakdown come from. Not because you're a bad person, but because you forgot to check your own gas tank. Think about it. When's the last time you gave to you? I'm not talking about buying something new or taking a selfie with a filter. I mean, when's the last time you sat still, got quiet, and asked yourself, how am I really doing? See, self-love is not a luxury. It's your maintenance plan. And you can't keep being the backbone for everybody else if your own spine is cracking from neglect. Psychologists talk about emotional boundaries. Philosophers talk about the inner self. Well, I talk about peace, that quiet kind of peace that comes when you stop begging for worth from the outside and start nurturing it from within. Listen, if you keep ignoring your own needs just to meet everybody else's, you will eventually start to resent the very people you're trying to help. And let me tell you something real plain. When you run dry, nobody shows up to refill you. That's your job. That's your responsibility. That's self-love. Don't wait until you're empty to remember you matter. Start pouring into yourself today. Self-worth is not measured by approval quit, waiting on validation. You are enough. Even when no one claps for you, let me say this loud so it hits home. Yourself. Worth is not measured by anybody else's approval. We live in a world where everybody's chasing likes, hearts, followers, chasing claps from people who don't even know you. But here's the truth. If you keep measuring your value by what other people think, you'll never know who you really are. That's slavery with a smile on it. That's handing the keys to your soul over to strangers and hoping they drive you to peace. They won't, they can't. Let me break it down for you psychologically. This is called external validation, and it's dangerous. Because the minute someone doesn't approve of you, you crumble. You start questioning your worth. You shrink yourself. You change your voice, your dreams, your clothes, all trying to fit into a space you were never made to belong in. But you know what philosophers have said for centuries, that true power comes from within. Socrates said, know thyself. Well, if you don't know who you are without applause, you don't know yourself at all. You just know the version of you that pleases people. And don't get it twisted, everybody ain't gonna clap for you. Some folks won't like you because you remind them of who they could have been if they had your courage. So stop looking for handshakes and hallelujahs. Start looking in the mirror and saying, I am enough right now as I am. Listen, when you finally stop waiting for people to choose you, and you choose yourself, that's when real confidence begins. Here's the takeaway. The day you stop needing permission to love yourself is the day you start living in power. Set the standard. Don't lower the bar. The way you treat yourself teaches others how to treat you. Now here's where things really shift, because once you start valuing yourself, you realize something important. You set the standard for how the world treats you. Let me explain that in plain talk, people will only rise to the level you require. If you keep lowering the bar just to keep people comfortable, don't be surprised when they step all over it. And you. See, what you allow is what will continue. If you don't respect your own time, don't expect anybody else to. If you don't demand honesty, you'll keep attracting lies. And if you don't love yourself, you'll keep calling disrespect love, because it's all you think you deserve. Psychologically, we call this self-concept. The way you see yourself internally shapes the way others engage with you externally. You're sending a signal, whether you know it or not. Every time you accept less than you deserve, you're teaching the world what's okay. Every time you overextend, shrink, or apologize for taking up space, you're lowering your own ceiling. And trust me, life will meet you at whatever standard you enforce. Now I know what you might be thinking, but Steve, what if people leave when I raise my standards? Let them. Because anybody who gets offended by your growth was never committed to your peace. The right people won't just respect your boundaries, they'll honor them. Look, setting the bar high doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you intentional. It says, I've done the work. I know what I bring. I'm not here to beg for love. I am the table. And I'll leave you with this. When you stop shrinking to fit places you've outgrown, you start walking in the power you were born with. Forgive yourself first. You've made mistakes. Join the club. Now get up, dust off, and keep walking with love. Let's go ahead and talk about one of the hardest, but most necessary, parts of loving yourself, forgiving yourself. Now I know some of y'all are walking around with a smile on your face, but carrying guilt so heavy it's bending your back. Mistakes from 5 years ago, words you wish you could take back, people you hurt, chances you missed. You keep replaying it in your head like if you punish yourself long enough, maybe you'll finally feel worthy again. But let me tell you something, punishing yourself ain't healing. That's just pain wearing discipline's clothes. Psychologically speaking, when you don't forgive yourself, you trap your identity in the past. You become emotionally stuck, reliving a moment that's already gone. Philosophers call it attachment to suffering. And that's what it is, suffering by choice. Because the truth is, you can't change the past. You can only learn from it. And look, I've made some bad decisions in my life, decisions that could have wrecked me. But I had to realize God already knew I'd fall, and He also knew I'd get back up. So who am I to keep holding something against myself that my Creator already forgave? When you forgive yourself, you're not saying it didn't matter. You're saying you matter more than the mistake. You're choosing growth over guilt. And that's maturity, that's self, love on a deeper level. So here's what I want you to remember. You are not what you did. You are what you decide to become. And the moment you forgive yourself, you free yourself to become something greater. Invest in your growth, read, pray, reflect, heal. You are your own most valuable stock. Now let me tell you something a lot of folks overlook. When they talk about loving themselves, you've got to invest in your own growth. See, self, love ain't just about bubble baths and affirmations. It's about development. It's about making choices today that your future self is gonna thank you for. And that takes work. That takes discipline. That takes showing up for yourself, even on the days when nobody's watching. You've got to grow your mind. Read books that stretch you. Listen to voices that challenge your thinking. Get in spaces that make you uncomfortable in the right ways. Because growth doesn't happen in comfort, it happens in friction. In tension, in doing what's unfamiliar until it becomes second nature. Now here's the deeper part, When you invest in your growth, you're telling yourself, I am worth the effort. That's powerful. Psychologically, that's how you rewire your self-image. When you take consistent action to become a better version of yourself, your brain begins to believe, I'm valuable, I'm capable, I matter. And that belief, that's the root of confidence. Don't just grow for success, grow for clarity. Grow so you stop repeating cycles. Grow so you attract peace instead of chaos. Grow because when you know better, you do better, and you deserve that level of alignment. A philosopher once said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." I'll add to that, a life where you refuse to evolve is a life where you slowly disappear from yourself. So don't just love who you are, love who you're becoming, put in the work. Because when you invest in your growth, you're not just changing your life, you're proving to yourself that you're worth the transformation. Confidence comes from knowing who you are, not from what you wear, drive, or earn, but from the truth you carry inside. Let's wrap this up with something that's gonna change the game for you. Confidence comes from knowing who you really are. Now, I want you to hear me clearly. Confidence doesn't come from what you wear, what you drive, or how many people are following you. That's the surface stuff. Confidence is something that's built deep inside, and it starts with a truth that you must fully embrace. You are enough. Let me explain it like this. When you know who you are at the core, nothing and nobody can shake your foundation. You stop needing constant reassurance because your value is rooted in something unshakable. Psychologically, this is called asterisk self concept. It's the internal picture you have of yourself, how you see yourself, not based on what others say, but based on what you know about yourself. That's where your true confidence lies. See, the reason so many people lack confidence is because they're still chasing other people's opinions to define who they are. You keep trying to be someone you're not, or you keep comparing yourself to other people, and then wonder why you feel insecure. If you build your confidence on comparison, all you'll ever feel is lack. When you finally know who you are, you stop shrinking to fit someone else's mold. You stop bending to meet expectations that were never yours in the first place. You stand firm in your authenticity. You speak your truth, and guess what happens then? You attract the right opportunities, the right people, and the right energy, because the world responds to your confidence, not your insecurity. Here's the final point. When you are rooted in who you are, you stop seeking approval, and you start commanding respect. And that's where your true power begins.